Hi everybody, and welcome to Once Upon a Scarf. This channel celebrates the art of the vintage scarf, from luxury silks to bandanas. Today, we're looking at a very old vintage scarf from the great Christian Dior. At first glance, it seems a bit unpromising. A simple pattern of autumn-hued waves. But I think this ultra-simple scarf tells an ultra-intriguing story about where that great master drew his inspiration. It's also a tale of two clients, the upper crust and the underbelly of the haute couture world. Along the way, we meet exquisite taste, marital vows dashed, and some big pussy energy to make your style vibes purr. I'm the author of two classic books on vintage fashion, Secondhand Chic and It's Vintage Darling. I'm a huge fan of the luxury, affordability, and in this case, Sherlock Holmes style detection set loose by great vintage scarves. I'm so happy to share what I know with you. So, on to this scarf. First things first, it's properly old, most likely dating to the late 1940s or 1950s. It was made in France. How do I know these things? Well, this particular example, made of heavy cream silk with an eyelet fringe rather than a hand-sewn hem, typifies the post-war scarves of the great Paris couture houses, and most especially those of Christian Dior. This was a time before Dior scarves got licensed out to manufacture in Italy, which started to happen round about the 1960s. I believe this scarf was made closer to home, using a very painterly screen printing technique. There's no border. The house name floats free. And the brushwork was very clearly done by hand rather than aided by machine. All of these things typify very early Dior scarves, so if you happen across one unloved in a thrift store bin, grab it, like I did with this one. So that's the scarf's anatomy. What about its imagery? With a quick glance, it's hard to say what, if anything, this is supposed to represent. It looks abstract, much like this incredible Lanvin Castilla scarf from approximately the same era. Same kind of stripes, but the Lanvin scarf has added droplets. Amazing, showing the water-resistant properties of the emulsion used in the printing process, and fabulously meta for that reason. But that's another scarf for another day. This one, it could be a landscape, but that doesn't really sit with the Dior ethos of this period. As we'll see over the coming videos, his scarves were also very meta in a different kind of way. The ones that weren't flat-out florals, very often tied into specific couture techniques that his clients and followers would have recognized. Little inside jokes or illusions. So what does this particular pattern most closely resemble? I don't know about you, but I'm seeing a tiger print here. There's a single example I'm aware of online of Dior going for tiger. This incredible pony hair coat that was sold in the 1950s in his New York boutique. Perhaps this scarf issues from that same season. The weird thing is, a tiger print for early Dior is a kind of rebellion, because his standard big cat was, without question, a leopard, famously so. Here are some great examples from his 50s collections. Why leopard? Dior was hugely influenced by his house muse and tastemaker, the legendary Misa Bricard, who gives her name to the House of Dior skinny scarves that are currently issued today. Madame Bricard, in Dior's words, aimed for that indefinable and perhaps slightly neglected thing called chic. Her own leopard obsession undoubtedly inspired the look and feel of the very first perfume ads for Miss Dior. Here showing a real-life, or at least taxidermied specimen. And here immortally captured by the great fashion illustrator René Grau. So, TLDR, a leopard print scarf, would have been far more expected from the House of Dior. But here we have another kind of cat, one equally as captivating and equally as lethal, which leads me to venture one more thought about vintage Dior scarves and what they meant in their time. It is exceedingly rare to see one used in a couture show or a fashion shoot during this period. Gloves, shoes, and above all hats were the signature accessories of the haute couture look. Scarves were something different. They might be worn more casually, of course, away from the catwalk. But above all, they were tokens, little banners of couture-adjacent luxury. They were frequently gifted on Mother's Day. Dior had a very large line in frankly ravishing floral scarves for exactly this purpose, and I'll cover some of those in greater detail in future videos. This one? I don't think this is a gift for a wife or a mother. I think it's an adornment for the kind of lady who gets a gentleman hot under the collar, meaning a mistress, a seductress, a couture digger who had her claws well and firmly sunk. Make no mistake, side chicks were as much a beneficiary of haute couture attentions as were wives and daughters, a fact that is very well documented in Christian Dior's own memoirs. You could almost say there are two very different kinds of elegance in his world. There's the fresh, floral, ladylike grace that gave rise to Dior's first collection, initially titled Corolla. And then there's a more earthy, feline elegance, embodied by glamour pusses like midcentury, who, according to a young embroidery supplier, Francois Lesage, would walk around the house practically naked, draped in panther skin. It was rather a lot for a young man to take. I think that's precisely the kind of woman this scarf was made for. This is a scarf for a man-eater. Do I know that for sure? Of course not. It's a mystery that will remain unsolved. But wasn't it fun stalking the answers? And that's today's scarf story. I hope you enjoyed it. If you fancy learning something about art, fashion, history, and style, please press the usual buttons to see more.